If you have never had a girlfriend, this is going to be one of the most important videos you've seen in a very long time. For me, it started in junior year of high school. I was sitting in class right at the beginning of the school year. I happened to see this girl across the room that was literally like peak standards in my opinion. When I tell you I didn't find any other girl as attractive as I found this girl, like it was bad. Now for me, junior year of high school had started right after the virus. I can't actually say that on YouTube, but you know the virus. And everyone was wearing masks. Now I was wearing a mask and so was she, so I only really saw from her eyes and above, but just that alone I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is like insane. So what I did, and just out of nowhere, I went up to her and I just started talking to her. I asked her some questions. I can't remember what it was about, but I asked her a question that led her to have to like contact me later. So after I asked a specific question, I ended up getting this girl's snap, and that night we had talked for like the whole night just over text about random stuff that, like, I don't know, it was just like goofing around. So yeah, we're goofing off, and I would say the first like kind of move that I made, it was a really dumb move, so like I definitely don't recommend doing this, but I started teasing her about this girl, or I mean guy, that I knew she had talked to in the past. Now I don't think they had dated, but this guy was kind of known around the school as like being this like douchebag, I guess. And to be honest with you, I was so inexperienced, I had no other way to really think about how to bring up like dating or guys or anything like that. So all I could think to do was like, hey, let me just make fun of this guy she used to talk to. Bad idea, but besides the point, I think she liked me enough to kind of go with it, because when I was bringing it up, she didn't seem upset. Now, she was actually laughing at these jokes like way more than I would have thought. And that being said, this is all over text on Snapchat. So she's like saying ha 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 ha. For all I know, she could have been completely straight faced. But one thing that I've noticed when you really like someone is like you genuinely find them like way more funny than they might actually be. And I swear, it's like the chemicals in your brain just like convincing you like, hey, like this person because you might be with this person, you know? So me and this girl were both extremely attracted to each other, which for me, I was a self-conscious like guy who had never been talking to a girl before. Even since elementary school, like I had opportunities with girls to like maybe date them and stuff like that, and I had crushes and all this, but I was always too self-conscious to ever actually act on it. So this was like euphoria to me. This is like probably one of the best feelings I had felt like ever, and I'm saying ever, like in my life. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going too good to be like not work, you know what I mean? Now being older, looking back on it, I know that even if things are going extremely well, it might not work, which I'll talk about later in this video. But just to continue, we're chopping it up. It's a great time. She never actually sent a picture of her face, which I thought was really weird. And I only saw the upper half of her face. So I was like, bro, what if this girl is like really ugly below the mask? You know what I mean? So anyway, we're talking, and then I took one of the biggest risks, at least at the time, it was one of the biggest risks I felt like I had ever taken. It was really dumb, and I don't recommend it. But that night, I was in such a good mood. I was like, bro, I need to like entice this girl or something. So oh dude, I'm cringing thinking back on this, but I was in my garage and I didn't have a shirt on because it was really hot. I was like, bro, I'm just gonna send this girl an ab picture to see her reaction. Oh, it's so bad. But anyway, I did that, and I can't remember her response, but I know it was good. I think she saved the snap. Bro, when I tell you, my phone, I threw that thing across the room in pure excitement. I was like, bro, I was shell shocked, okay? But anyway, we get past this night. I was smiling the whole time, like literally like nothing could have been better. And the way that my school worked, we had A days and B days, so I would only see her about 3 to 2 times a week. Yeah, because it was 5 days a week going to school. In the class that she was in, I would literally try to prepare as much as possible, look as good as possible, always just like trying to impress this girl. Funny enough, the class that we shared together, it was only one class, but it was actually like my least favorite class. I hated it. She was the only thing that made it good. Anyway, we can skip ahead a little bit. I think I'm getting too excited talking about this. I just feel like it's such a memorable time in my life. But anyway, we skip ahead like about a week, and then she asked to come over to my house. When I tell you, I have never been more excited, nervous, butterflies, happy, all of this in one. It was one of the most emotional roller coasters I've ever felt. And all it was a little text that said, hey, want to hang out, or something like that. Like very simple. I'm freaking out. Like I don't know what to do. And by the way, when I saw this girl in person, she was even better than I thought. Like she was better than I saw her online. She was better. She was like ideal. It was too good to be true. You know what I mean? It was too good. She had a great personality. She was extremely attractive. She was like everything that I ever could have wanted. She was kind of tall, and I, for some reason, like that too, even though I'm not that tall. But yeah, it was the night that she was coming over. I think Squid Games had just dropped or something like that. I was like, this is a popular show, maybe she'll want to see it. And then that night she came over, and that's the night that I fell in love, like head over heels in love. it was the first time we hung out. Now, looking back, I wasn't actually in love at that time, even though I did end up falling in love later. But to me, never experiencing a girl ever, like, to me, that was like literally falling in love. So at this point, if you look at my brain as like a pie chart, you have like what I focus on. It's like school is like 20%, work, this, that, money, all like social media, all that stuff, right? She was probably taking up about like 50% of my mind space. Like half the time I was thinking about her, half the time I was thinking about literally everything else. And a little bit later, I'll tell you why that was actually a really like bad thing. But for now, it felt amazing. Like I was in the best mental state of my life. Anyway, we hang out a couple more times and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to snatch this girl up. Like I need to ask this girl out, because if I don't, someone else will. And I just could not let this opportunity pass. She was the perfect girl in my opinion. So anyway, we hung out a few more times, like probably 3 or 4. And I think it was on the 4th time I asked her, like over text, because dude, I don't know why it's like this nowadays, but you kind of have to ask a girl to be your girlfriend. I think she was actually hinting towards it. She was like, are you gonna ask me? Or I don't know. Obviously we both wanted that. So eventually over text, once again, I think it was on Snapchat, I was like, do you want to be my girlfriend or something like that? She said yes. And once again, it was another like euphoria moment. Like, dude, my dopamine was at an all-time high. It was like a stock just shooting up or something like that. I don't know. So now we're a few months in and everything is amazing. Things are just going great. But little did I know it would start going downhill and things would start getting bad. But before I get into that, I want to relate to you guys about this. So the reason I had felt so good and felt all this euphoria is because I actually had a lot of problems like throughout my entire life, with my parents getting divorced, with me never really seeing my mom. I literally had mommy issues, and that's a real thing. It's basically where like if you don't see your mother or your father, whoever, you basically crave some sort of attention. And I didn't know this at the time, but that's why I felt so like insanely high whenever I was with her. It's because I was lacking that attention my entire childhood. And the other thing is, like, as guys, I feel like you guys can relate to this too, but like in elementary school, middle school, I really didn't ever even like try to get a girlfriend because I was so like self-conscious. And it wasn't easy at all. Like it was actually really hard, especially because I would always talk to girls and like get really close with them, but I would never take that step of like asking them out, simply because I felt like I either looked bad, wasn't confident, like didn't have the nicest house, like anything like this. And my honest advice to people that are going through something like that, like you guys, like the time will come. I can promise you that the time will come. And I don't necessarily think you even have to be looking. I think you just have to be improving yourself as much as you can. Because for me, I wasn't really looking when this happened. It really just came like right in front of my eyes. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this, but especially growing up, never really getting that girl or female attention is just honestly really hard. Even guys that are right now like in high school, I'm sure there's a lot of you watching this who have never had a girlfriend. You're probably sophomore, junior, even senior, maybe even graduated without ever having a girlfriend, and that can actually take a toll on your mental health. And the thing that's really hard to understand is that you don't need that attention. You really don't. Even though it's so glamorized and feels like something that's completely necessary. And everyone talks about, oh, I lost my view card at 16 or like 15 or whatever. It's just like, it's not all that. I'm not saying relationships aren't great, especially mine. It was great, but it will never end well if you cannot learn to love yourself first, which is what I highly recommend to all of you watching this. You need to be completely content with yourself before you get into a relationship, and I stand by that. If you are not happy with yourself, let's say you're self-conscious or you're just not where you want to be, I don't recommend getting into a relationship, because you're going to rely on that person rather than relying on yourself. And the reason that hurts is because, let's say things don't go right, like you might be in high school, middle school, whatever age, it's pretty likely that things aren't going to go right. So when you put so much reliance on someone, it can end up like backfiring on you like crazy. And that's exactly what happened to me. So back with this girl, the love of my life at the time, those few months of my life went by, and this is known as the honeymoon phase, like the phase where everything is good, nothing's bad at all. From both sides, there's no arguing, there's no fighting, there's no conflict at all, and this happens with most people, so be prepared for that. But anyway, something that got really planted in my head that hurt a lot was like, what's gonna happen when it's over? So this girl, she actually had to leave as soon as school ended, like had to go to a different state. And that just sort of like dawned on me like every day. After a certain point, after a few months went by, it was like one of the things that would kind of graze my mind. And I'm the type of guy that really thinks like long term about things. So I was like, okay, this girl is leaving. I don't necessarily think she wants to stay with me if she leaves. So then everything at that time became literal like push and pull, like the best of the best and the worst of the worst. Because don't get me wrong, everything was so amazing, but that's actually what made it worse because I knew it was all coming to an end. So we're hanging out like 2 to 3 to even 4 times a week. And I'm getting sadder and sadder and sadder. And things at my home started going wrong. A lot of money issues and all this stuff that I talk about in my other videos. And then I get to an extreme low point in my life. This girl's about to leave. It's almost summer. My parents are struggling financially extremely bad. And I had a lot of family issues. And when I say a lot, I'm talking like life-changing family issues. Like my stepmom, who was like one of my main caretakers at the time, had to go to the hospital for like 9 months. Just really bad stuff. And then it all hit me all around the same time. I pretty much lost everything. My stepmom, my real mom at the time, had a brain tumor. My grandma had brain cancer. Not brain cancer, I don't know, some sort of cancer. I don't know what it was. My dad had no job and everything was horrible. Like the worst time of my life. It was horrible. And to top things off and make it even worse, this girl was done. Like, she didn't want to be with me anymore, and it was pretty apparent. Anyway, this got dragged on for a while until eventually we broke up. And I had never been more depressed, sad, upset in my entire life. Once again, stemming back to these quote-unquote mommy issues, of course this hurt really bad because I was lacking that motherly, not even motherly, but like just girl figure in my life. And like I said, my stepmom was in the hospital and my actual mom was experiencing extreme health problems. So I was at an all-time low. Like it had never been worse in my life. Like just in general, the feeling of that was the worst feeling I've ever experienced. I still feel that to this current day. Like that was the worst thing I have ever experienced in my entire life. I've been through really hard things, so this didn't make total sense. This is where I think I can give you guys the best advice. Do not put too much reliance into one person. Like you truly do need to love yourself first. If you don't, you could go through the same thing that I did. Now, what's most important is no matter what happens, when things start to go wrong, it's what you do. For me, I got into entrepreneurship. I started making content and I met you guys, which was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Which now coming up to current times has stemmed this business, Simpletics. This business was literally stemmed to where I just started making products that help you improve yourself and look better. Especially during that time after my breakup, that's like one of the main things I focused on. And it's the reason I even do anything relating to self-improvement now. Because I was in such a bad place that I had to improve or else I would have not been here right now. I don't know what would have happened. I was doing things to make my hair look better, like using salt spray. I was giving people tips online on TikTok, and I was getting 100,000 followers a month. Amazing upward momentum solely because I took my negative energy and all that depression and sadness and used it towards something good, which I think you guys should do too. It was the most improvement I've ever experienced in my life until probably right now, which deserves an entire other video. The level of improvement. I started a business that started making 6 figures a month. It wasn't actually Simpletics that was the business, it was a separate one, but this is the one I do now. It was life-changing. It literally set me on the path that would set up to be the rest of my life. This is the career I'm doing forever now. All because I took this pain and suffering and turned it into something that is actually worth anything, I guess. With all this being said, I have nothing against this girl. She's still amazing. I would still say I love this girl. She was the love of my life at the time. Like I said, at the time, not anymore. I don't like want to be with her or anything because I'm way too focused. I've talked to a lot of different girls and I'm not there right now. Like I need to focus on myself. Like I was saying, that's the thing I have to do. And trust me, it's actually working. Like this business is literally doing 6 figures a month and my goal is to do $1 million a month, which is just crazy, but thanks to you guys, it's possible. Yeah, you just need to understand that you cannot settle. If someone doesn't want to be with you, you might as well leave. And when that happens, it's gonna hurt. When you get your first girlfriend, chances are, to be completely honest with you, it's not gonna work, and that's gonna hurt extremely bad. And that's just because that's how life is. It's your first love is your first love for a reason. It's very rare that high school sweethearts make it, and if you do, that's a really great thing. Please, for me, for you, for the greater good of humanity, just do what's best for you. Like really, like seriously, do not prioritize other people over yourself. You should never do that. And when things go good or bad, just make sure you act in the best way possible by improving yourself, improving the people around you, improving your surroundings, trying to make the most of it, because at the end of the day, this is a huge part of life and it's gonna hit you in the face one day. Pause. So if you have never had a girlfriend in your entire life, it'll come, it'll happen. Don't worry about it. But when it does, be prepared. I hope this story and this video is the reason that you succeed. Maybe you marry this girl that you meet, your first ever love. Like, I hate the fact that probably won't happen, but let's be real, it probably won't. If it doesn't, just focus on yourself. My boy, focus on yourself. Anyway, good luck, guys. See you in the next video.